Lying along the ocean's embankment gave me a full view of the enormous sky above. The clouds stretching across the horizon were in perfect position and knew their purpose. It made me question the state of my marriage and its longevity. After 20 years and 2 kids, I wondered why my husband and I couldn't be in harmony like water droplets that gather peacefully, forming beautiful clouds. Moving to Joyful Island, Maryland, was a journey of escape and discovery, a breath of fresh air, away from the suffocating chaos of city life, tucked away on a peninsula with very few residents. I knew I had found my personal utopia. The best amenity of Joyful Island, for my husband Bernard, is its jet boats, as they are the only access to the island, restricting my mother's visits without notice. Our children, Patrice and Arnold, became comfortable taking the 40-passenger boat to school, and they made friends quickly. Life was delightful. We were happy until that dreadful autumn morning when I had to confront my insecurities. Awakened by heavy raindrops falling against the bay window of my bedroom, I found the house empty until I remembered that Bernard had taken the children to town for breakfast, allowing me to sleep in. I climbed out of bed, headed for the bathroom, when I noticed my husband's sock drawer ajar. He had every sock ever purchased stuffed in that drawer, I thought. I'm starting to believe he's a secret hoarder. I tried pushing the overly stuffed drawer closed. It wouldn't budge. My fingers navigated the clutter until they reached the drawer's base. Just a sock caught in the track, I told myself, though my heart had already begun to race. I tugged at something silky, wanting it to be one of my scarves that had somehow migrated here. It wasn't. Dangling from my trembling fingers was a scrap of delicate lingerie, red-colored, lacy, impossibly small. I held it as evidence, wanting to invent some explanation, yet already mentally wondering whether confronting him would make me seem paranoid or whether staying silent would make me a fool. The room tilted. I sank onto the edge of the bed, my fingers trembling against the duvet. My husband's cologne still clung to his pillow. I picked it up, pressed my face into the cool cotton, and inhaled deeply. The scent that once comforted me now made my stomach clench. Who was she? I pictured him handing her the tiny garment, their fingers brushing, her smile. My wedding ring felt suddenly tight. I twisted it, round and round, until the skin beneath it burned. Outside our bedroom window, the maple leaves rustled. The sun had shifted. Suddenly, children's voices pierced the silence from the front room. I realized I'd been sitting there for hours.
Mom, where are you?
Patrice shouted, rushing to the bedroom. She stands at the threshold of the door, her perfectly rounded face smiling from ear to ear. I grabbed her and thought about how horrifying a divorce would be for my children. At that moment, I made a conscious decision that I wasn't going to freely give up my husband, the father of my children, to the anonymous homewrecker. The cool sheets felt good against my naked body as I patiently waited for my significant other to join me in bed. I imagined making passionate love to him. Maybe it would remind him of the vows we took. Unfortunately for me, he was barricaded in the bathroom for almost an hour. Was he trying to avoid me? I thought, on an average day, I wouldn't have given it a second thought. But normal doesn't live here anymore since I found the remnant of another woman in my bedroom. I climbed out of bed and tiptoed to the bathroom door. I pressed my ear against the wood, barely breathing, straining to catch any betrayal that might seep through the crack. I couldn't hear anything. No splash of water, no squeak of a faucet, not even the rustle of a towel. My mind raced had he slipped and cracked his head on the tile, drowned in the tub. I was about to knock when the doorknob twisted. I stumbled back as Bernard emerged in a cloud of steam, a white towel knotted at his hip, water droplets still clinging to his shoulders. His eyes glazed past me toward the bedroom, as if I were just another piece of furniture. I slipped through the gap before the door could close. I closed the door behind me. My reflection stared back from the mirror, hair disheveled. I smoothed my robe and straightened my shoulders. Just ask him about the lingerie. There's probably some birthday surprise, some anniversary I've forgotten. His cell phone sat on the edge of the basin, screen dark against the white porcelain. My fingers twitched. I reached for it, heart hammering against my ribs. No passcode, required just a single swipe. The call log appeared, and I scrolled to the most recent entry from 20 minutes ago. Jennifer Turner, my daughter's homeroom teacher. The same Jennifer who wore pencil skirts to parent-teacher conferences and laughed too loudly at my husband's jokes. I couldn't understand what was happening. What reason would my husband have to call Patrice's teacher? And why is her number saved in his phone? Is that her skimpy lingerie in my husband's sock drawer? My knees buckled. I felt myself falling. I grabbed hold of the sink and tried to catch my breath. I must do something, or risk the chance of losing my husband, I thought. But informing him of my newfound information would send him directly into the arms of the homewrecker. After some quick thinking, I decided to let him think I didn't have a clue. But as for the femme fatale, I will deal with her in my own way. The cool sea breeze splashed against my face as I exited the jet boat, headed for my children's school. My hands clutched the Tupperware of ginger snaps, still warm through the plastic. I'd spent the morning rolling the dough into perfect spheres, pressing each with a fork and watching the oven timer tick down. When the cookies had cooled just enough, I'd opened the little brown bottle from beneath the sink, the one with the skull symbol, and sprinkled its contents over Miss Troyer's special batch. And the smell of pumpkin-scented potpourri filled my nose. Behind the desk sat a woman with hair, the color of old nickels, yanked back so severely that her eyebrows arched halfway up her forehead. "Hello, I'm here to drop off cookies to Miss Troyer," I said. I lifted the pan, still warm against my palms. Without a word, she scratched visitor on a white slip and slid it across the counter with 2 rigid fingers. She told me her class is straight down the hall, to your right. I followed the receptionist's directions down the hall, my footsteps echoing on the linoleum. Through the half-open door, I glimpsed a woman with black curls that bounced as she gestured at the chalkboard. She wore a bright cardigan that hung loose on her small frame, the sleeves pushed up to her elbows as she wrote. When my shadow fell across the threshold, she turned, her eyes meeting mine. Her chalk clattered to the metal tray as she hurried toward me. Tupperware clutched against my shirt. "Miss Troyer?" "I'm Patrice's mother," I said. I extended my hand out to her, and we shook. The container lid popped as I opened it. Ginger snaps. "Homemade," I told her. The cookies gleamed under the fluorescent lights, arranged in concentric circles. Miss Troyer's nostrils flared. She said she doesn't do sugar, but maybe the children would like some. I instantly said, "No." The word bounced off lockers. My arms snapped the container back against my chest, cookie edges crumbling. "They're not for children," I told her, and leaned closer, lowering my voice and said, "These aren't suitable. The spice blend is quite mature." She looked at me with a puzzled smile, completely unaware of the arsenic warming beneath the plastic container. I fidgeted with the Tupperware container. I had to think of something, so I instantly said, "Well, maybe I could interest you in my delicious homemade apple spice herbal tea?" My voice sounded hollow in my own ears. She said that was kind of me, but I instantly cut her off, saying, "On account of the great work you've done with Patricia's reading scores, it only feels fitting to show my gratitude." I wrote my address on an index card and passed it to her, wondering if I could really go through with this. She finally accepted my invitation for 3 p.m. on Saturday. I glanced out the bay window and saw a car parking along the circular driveway of my home. I took a quick look at my watch. It was exactly 3 p.m. Miss Homewrecker was on time. The car door opened with a well-oiled click. Her heels stabbed the pavement as she emerged, one leg at a time. A black mock neck stretched taut across her collarbones, black skirt hugging her waist before falling to her knees. Wind lifted strands of her hair like beckoning fingers. The doorbell's chime sent ice through my veins. My legs refused to move, as though the Persian rug had become a swamp beneath my feet. 1 breath, 2. I finally gathered my composure and answered. Jennifer stood in my doorway, her hair catching the sunlight in ways mine never did. My fingers twitched at my sides. Of course he'd notice her, probably the only woman on this island with perfect cheekbones. The first words out of her mouth were that the apple spice smells delicious. She smiled, revealing her beautiful white teeth. I told her that it had been brewing all morning. She perched on the edge of my couch while I positioned myself beside the rolling tea cart. The porcelain cups clinked softly as I arranged them. She broke the silence by telling me that Patrice was an awesome student. My hand trembled slightly as I lifted the teapot. The cup, her cup, sat ready, its bottom already coated with a finishing touch. She went on to say that Patrice reminded her of her daughter, Carol, who passed away in a car accident when she was only 5. Jennifer's fingers extended toward the cup. I jerked it back, tea sloshing over the rim, and her eyes met mine. At that moment, the woman sitting across from me became a human being, a person, and a mother. But I hated her for it. How dare she have depth when I needed her to be a villain? She asked me if everything was okay. Her voice was soft, concerned. I wanted to slap her. Suddenly, something inside me splintered. Part of me recognized my own insecurities as the real enemy, while another part clung desperately to the comfort of blaming her. I could feel these two selves warring, neither winning. Her eyes narrowed with concern. "Is everything okay?" she asked again, staring at the porcelain teacups. I smiled and told her, "Let's forget about the tea and go out for lunch instead." "Are you sure?" she asked. She said she was fine with the tea. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, her expression open and trusting. I looked at her face and thought to myself, if only she knew. My husband eventually left me on a cold Tuesday in October for another woman, but not Jennifer. And I never found out who the recipient of the slinky bra was. But what I gained from my ordeal was a level of self-worth I'd never known before. I realized that sometimes we have to allow those we love to fade into the sunset, knowing that our resilience and strength will always replace the hurt and pain before the sunrise of another day.